move through the room like a ghost star. I'm what they see but can't touch now. You move through the room like a ghost star. You what they see but can't touch now. Move through the room like the ocean. We what they see, but it might drown. You move through the room wearing your crown, holding me down, making me proud. I think I wanna be faithful to you. I think I wanna do these changes with you. Cause you embrace my dark side of the moon. You can handle me in my phases. Ride with me and I'ma change your existence. One day it's gonna change to I do. My heart is like a monsoon. You can handle me in my phases. Ride with me and I'ma change your existence. We phase and phase and phase and phase and phase and we phase and phase and phase and phase and phase and move through the room like a ghost star. I'm what they see but can't touch now. Every day I'm grinding outside. It's get lonely when you popping outside. You move through the room like a ghost star. They could see you but can't touch now. When they come for you, they get rolled up. They ain't your way, niggas get told up. She on her soft air, cause I took the load off. I'm in my boss air, never take my grind off. She know if she love me right, then we gon' have a child air. Her last man was on thin ice, she put me in a pallbearer. You do me right, I do you right, we only growing up here. Our phases might be left and right, but we could never fall here. I like it when you extra passionate, I sit back and chill. She love me cause she know I'm masculine. I think I wanna be faithful to you. I think I wanna do these changes with you. Cause you embrace my dark side of the moon. You can handle me in my phases. Ride with me and I'ma change your existence. One day it's gonna change to I do. My heart is like a monsoon. You can handle me in my phases. Ride with me and I'ma change your existence. We phase and phase and phase and phase and phase and yeah. We phase and phase and phase and phase and phase and we move through the room like a ghost star. We what they see but can't touch now.
All right, peace and chaos. We are back. Shout out to my YouTube family. It's always great to tap in with you all. Also, make sure to support that artist, Anpu. That's his new album, Healed Wolf 2. Came out last month. That song is called Dark Side of the Moon. You want to listen to the tunes. He has a fire music video to go with the song. So make sure to run his views up and subscribe to that brother's page. We support high frequency music over here. Let me know if my sound is okay. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Give me a thumbs up. I see y'all up in there. Shout out to the Nagas and Fangs. Just give me a thumbs up. Let me know that the sound is crisp and clear. We'll continue. All right. Thank you, Julian. So I want to welcome my Nagas and Fangs, new subscribers. I know a lot of people came over from Brother Sanchez from the last interview I did on his channel weeks ago. So shout out to them and any other newcomers to the True Occult newspaper. Here at the Spiritual Shade Room, our job is to educate the masses on hyperlucidal scripted world stage events that we are being masonically initiated into on a regular basis via subconscious programming. Because people are becoming more enlightened every day now after seeing the continuous lies being fed to the masses. All of the souls are starting to wake up now. And they're starting to do away with the holographic Maya once and for all. So here on this channel, we're going to cover spirituality, metaphysics, hermeticism, alchemy, physics of the soul and its equations, Alediaism, vibratory grammatography, mythology, esotericism, occultism, and Gnostic metaphysical insight into the lattices of the lower dimensions of reality. And what we're trying to do is reconnect to those higher tiers of the pleroma realms that consciousness is being streamed from. So very, very Gnostic here. And we have a lot of information to go through. We're going to try to keep a good pace so we cover everything. That's why I wanted to start an hour earlier. How is everyone? How did y'all weekend go? Hope your weekend went well. Hope you've been doing your spiritual practices. There's a lot happening, a lot of attacks that's been happening on people. From a spiritual basis, you have to have your protection and have your life right. Things have to be aligned. I see you up in there, Jorge. Shout out to you, brother. I see y'all up in there. But welcome, everyone. I have a great show lined up for you all. I wasn't able to go live on Patreon this weekend because I'm in the middle of moving into my new living space. And change is very exciting. You know, I'm grateful that I am able to embark on this new chapter of my life. I took my son with me to where I'll be moving to the other day. And this boy was ripping and running all over the place. He was like, I'm ready, Daddy. Let's hurry up and get in this place. But I very much love, you know, my little Titan and that joyous spirit that he has. And understand this, changing locations means that you are entering into a whole other environment, which means metaphysically you're changing the ley line paths that you've grounded yourself to spiritually over the past however much time you was in the other living space. That's a major shift in your alchemical development to shift that ley line, be somewhere else. So it's like becoming a part of a new universe, another pocket interdimensionally. So if you really break it down, these ley lines and dragon paths around the planet correspond with the stars' positions in optimal topography. And it allows that untapped kinetic potential within your mental space for you to work on. That's why they base their magic upon it. You know, speaking of ley lines, there's been a lot of irregular flow of cold weather flowing up north towards North Pole. So I was doing some research on some things, and I've noticed like a week or two, it was like 30 degrees. It's 30 degrees outside at night, late at night. And then the next week it was 60, went back up to 60 degrees. And now is, you know, it's dropping back, you know, midway, you know. So I'm like, what's going on with this thing? You know, so they're calling it, well, there's two things. The occult esoteric community is saying there's some extraterrestrial activity in the North Pole because there's a regular flows of cold weather coming from the North Pole. Then the scientific people are calling it a polar vortex, which is an interesting name. And that's when a large area of low pressure and cold air surrounds the poles. And this vortex typically keeps the coldest air near those poles, acting somewhat like a refrigerator door that keeps the cold air contained. You know, so either way, sometimes that container can collapse or weaken, which allows this frigid Arctic air to spill southward over the United States, Canada, or other places like Europe. So sometimes the poles can't contain the cold air. But it could be some other activities going on spiritually as well with the ley lines. So we got to keep our eyes on that. And is it ironic because they said this thing is really going to take effect in 2024? as we approach winter. Well, they just released the trailer for the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I was like, you think that's a coincidence? You know, this is the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife with Finn Wolfhard. If you don't know who that is, that's him over here. That's the kid from Stranger Things, Mike, you know, Eleven's lover. And they prototypically, they breed these kids from a young age into these occult agendas and propagandas, then lead them into other projections of energies for propagating purposes. And there is no coincidence at all. The same time they're talking about this polar vortex, it's this new movie on Frozen Empire. So it may be an uptick of TV series and movies speaking about some type of frozen winter or something like that. And then you got the whole QAnon thing when they spoke about the dark winter, you know, Trump and Biden going into a election year, the dark winter and all of that. So a lot of stuff going on. What's going on, Katrina? Shout out to Katrina up in there and the rest of the family from Europe over there. I know y'all on a different time than us. Appreciate everyone who made the video today live and anyone who's playing it back. So just a little hyperlucidity. Those of you new from other channels, hyperlucidity is recent events. I call it the hard copy info. You know, we just talk about some things that happen in society. We'll get into the lecture a little bit later. And I'll talk about Brother Panic in a little bit. Did y'all see the new Good Burgers trailer? I've been telling y'all about this. And the reason why I'm talking about Good Burger, the actor Kale was hospitalized in LA. And I was like, uh-oh, here it go. Soon as the trailer comes out, this guy gets hospitalized. And you know, this channel was big on cloning and big on transhumanism. I told everyone that whole C word thing, you know, the plandemic, when you put machinery, nano machinery in your body, you're turned into a transhuman. And the movie is talking about transhumanism, the Good Burger 2 movie. So this brother ended up in the hospital, and he made a video a couple of days later saying, oh, I was all right. It was something like a bulge in my disc in my spine or something. Anything they say is subliminal at a level. What's going on, Jared? I see you up in there, bro. Everything's subliminal. So I was like, okay, what's the coincidence? First of all, I want to show you this trailer, and we'll get into the gematria of what's really going on, what's actually happened. Let me show you this trailer real quick.
We shut down the store. Shut it down. Shut it down. I don't think you really understand. You're on fire. I like that. Fired. Fired. It's hot. You just got hustled. Welcome to Good Burger. Can I take your order? Whoa. Megacorp wants to...
Uh-oh. Y'all know what that is right there. I've been the main person talking about it. These identities, these clones, whatever you want to call them. Neon humans. I've been speaking about this since I started YouTube. Don't forget, this is my second YouTube channel. So when I saw that, I was like, okay.
Replace everybody with robots. We got to do something.
We're going to change the world.
Here's your...
Okay, so he said, Keenan said they want to replace everyone with robots. Interesting. Very interesting, right? What's going on, Adonijah? You said the news broke 3 months and 3 days before Super Bowl 58. Not surprising. Not surprising at all. And I was speaking about the wax museum. Some of those wax dummies you see in wax museums are actually clones. Those are people that have been waxed alive. And you got other people, oh, y'all conspiracy theorists. They'll never do nothing like that. That's impossible. Look at this, man. Yeah, right in front of your face. They said they want to replace people with robots. And the woman said we're going to take over the world. You know, and they have to do it on melanated people. The project is always, that's why they have melanated people living in the projects. The project is always through the melanated people. You know, he said, was that Molly Kiram? I don't know who that is. I will have to look up. Y'all look up the research, let me know. So shout out to Call Me Kinfolk. I saw his video on it. This is one of his images. He said that Good Burger 2 is coming out on 11/22 this month. Kel Mitchell, who was hospitalized, name equals 1122 in reverse Sumerian. They love these Sumerian ciphers. Then you have Society of Jesus equals 1122 Sumerian gematria. Yeah, I saw that House of Wax movie. So it happened 74 days after his August 25th birthday. All that in gematria, that's the show they played on, equals 74. Masonic equals 74. Shoot, gematria equals 74. Occult equals 74. Jesus equals 7. They love that number 74. Good Burger and Freemasonry both equals 58, 158. And Kel Mitchell in Society of Jesus both equals 187. And if you don't remember, Kel actually quit Hollywood. The Hollywood industry, he went away for a little bit and became a preacher. So he got away for a little bit and started serving the Society of Jesus, you know, selling the whole Jesus thing. Then he comes back years later. And I believe that his friend Keenan, because there is interviews of them asking why Kel and Keenan, they were asking Kel, why don't he do stuff with Keenan that much television wise? It was a interview from years ago. And he was just saying, he said in the interview that Keenan was getting too Hollywood, you know? And I think Keenan got him out of retirement to sacrifice him. And you might say, okay, that's far-fetched. They always put it in the subliminals. Don't know how to talk today already. Look at this Saturday Night Live opening with Ice Spice and the boy that was dating Kim Kardashian after Kanye. What his name is? Pete something. Forget these people names, but they did an opening. I want you to listen to what Keenan said in the opening. There's always things they put subliminally. So
SNL with Ice Spice.
Woo, look at us, 3 Gen Z icons.
Aren't you like 40?
No. Long time ago, I met this guy and made a deal where I get to stay 25 years old for forever.
What guy?
Tall fella, horns, red fur, I don't know, little hooves.
Keen, that's the devil, dude.
What? I thought it was like a Times Square Elmo or something.
there you go. So yeah, I see the butterfly. I did a post on Ice Spice a long time ago. Her real name is Isis, like the Egyptian goddess. And I did a video on all of the butterfly iconography she's always a part of. She's always got a butterfly in the video. That means Project Monarch. All of the strippers always get, you know, butterflies. It means mind control. If you look at the sphenoid bone in the brain, quick lesson right here. Sphenoid bone is the butterfly. You see how it looks like this? This is what's in your brain that holds your skull your skull together. This is what houses the skull right here in the brain. It's called the sphenoid. That's the butterfly, and that's why they call it mind control, you know. So there you go. There is science to it. But cloning, that's what's happening right here. They got the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. His name is Brock Purdy, looking like John Harbaugh, the coach of the Ravens. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, there's some things lining up for the Ravens to either make the Super Bowl this year. This whole video is about the Raven and the Dark Phoenix. If you look at the latest Super Bowls, I pointed out this on Donut's channel a couple of weeks ago. The color they put on the NFL website for the past 3 years always predicts the who's going to be in the Super Bowl. So I got some things I'm going to bring up in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a lot of things that's happening, and I'm getting ahead of myself right now, but there's no coincidence. There's a lot of cloning going on that people are not looking at. You just finished the movie Dark Phoenix, good. Because this video is going to be all about that. All about the Dark Phoenix. It's time. Okay, so today's YouTube masterclass lecture is Corvus, Tenebris, the Dark Phoenix. And my Patreon family, I want y'all to let them know about that article that was posted yesterday on this lecture that I'm doing today. Wasn't that a great article? I read it back this morning. This morning, I read through it, and I said it was very informative. Very, very informative. Yeah, I've done lectures on cloning, Moonchild. A lot of lectures on cloning. I haven't done one on this channel. I had a very, very popular video on my last channel called The Clone-demic. The Clone-demic video. I'm going to start uploading my past YouTube videos to my Patreon. I got a brother who has my videos. He's going to send it to me once I fully move into my new space, and I'll have all of those videos back. They got deleted. Yeah, I'm gonna re-upload it. So Corvus Tenebris, we did an article, man. That article on Patreon is fire. Very fire, packed with information. I'm going to go into some of it in a minute. So everything in that article is based on rudimentary research of my first video on this channel, Umbrakinesis, in the physics of shadow work. We're going to speak about shadow work today. That's another cliche term that people like to throw around, sort of like wokeness and all of that crap. You know, light work, shadow work. We're going to get into the physics of how this thing works today. You know, we're going to talk about breaking the third wall of the mind. And that third wall is the imaginary barrier of those subtle bodies that opens us up to the conscious fields of metapersonal entities. Metapersonal entities is your shadows. What are your shadows? What are you hiding with your shadows? Prototypically, when we do consultations, I've done a lot of consultations the past 2 weeks. We've been getting into the shadows. That's the emphasis. That's why this lecture is going to be dedicated to our master teacher, Brother Panic, who was big into the shadow work. So my research couldn't have grown to this point without our master teacher, Brother Panic. Master teacher, Brother Panic, Mr. Baphomet himself. We want to say rest in power to the OG. He made the transition last month. I still haven't gotten a confirmation on the day of his death or his transition. But rest in power. This was a powerful brother right here. And he's even more powerful in the spiritual realm. This brother was extremely powerful. taught us a lot of things. Those of you who know, this is one of the juggernauts in the occult community. Yeah, talk that sass. Baphomet. Very funny person. Very funny, but extremely serious. Didn't take no shit. One of Bobby's top students, you know. And shout out to Mario from Symbolic Studies. I heard him salute Panic. And Brother Sanchez. I saw the video with him. I really enjoyed listening to them both commemorate the brother. Panic was literally the emanation of the dark side in the melanated occult community. A lot of people had their issues with the brother, you know, because he started hanging around a certain rapper, you know. So people had their issues with the brother. But make no mistake about it, he was the real deal. And I made 3 different videos on the master teacher, Brother Panic. You can watch. I'm not going to go in depth because people want me to talk about it. One is on my Instagram. You can go to the Spiritual Shade Room #1. You can hear that video I did. Then another is on my Twitter, or what they call X nowadays. And there's a long 3-hour video that we broke down on my Patreon, addressing all of these YouTubers clout chasing off his death, talking about they were responsible for killing him in the name of Bobby Hemmett. I don't know if y'all heard that bull crap, but we addressed that on Patreon. But I'll tell you right now, that's all cap. Anybody saying that is cap. Capcom. You know, all of a sudden, people's YouTube views went from 300 views to 20K. They should be ashamed of themselves, putting that bull crap out. You know, so you guys can go hear me break those videos down, start to finish. We expose all of those people to the highest degree. All a bunch of contradictions and lies. You know. So Panic is now an ancestor. And we have to get over that. It had nothing to do with any of these bottom feeders out here, you know, because I woke up today. Sometimes you get messages once you do the actual spiritual work. I woke up today out of a dream and realized that Panic has now assumed the role of the god of stories. You know, this is similar to what Loki did. You go back, who saw the last episode of Loki? I always talk to my Patreons or my patrons. Y'all know homework was to finish Loki, because today is a lot of information about Loki. Loki became the god of stories. Sitting on his throne, that's Panic. Well, he's a form of Loki and Cain. So you watched it twice. Yeah, it was very powerful. You see what I'm saying? Bobby and Panic, both of them were the ones to put me into knowing that these TV series and movies are documentaries about the spiritual beings in the world achieving higher statuses in their development. So the characters in these TV series and movies are just phases of frequencies, like variables in a math equation. And it's no coincidence that Loki grew horns. At the end, he grew these long horns, you know, and sat on the throne of the multiverse, just like Brother Panic venerated the horn god Pan. That's why he named himself Panic. And he was one of the first people talking about the multiverse before even Marvel started talking about the multiverse. So Panic was already in that action in the early 2000s. He was already into the research of the multiverse before most people. Yeah, I know all of the Christians just got scared of the Baphomet symbol. Yeah. Yeah, I was a lot of it. Yeah. Yeah, the cusp. So Panic had all the action figures on his altars. He was one of the first people to talk about putting certain Marvel characters on your altars and childhood things, and encourage people to do the same, put their childhood indulgences on their altar to embrace the child within them. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Some other people will call that witchcraft because they're on a low level of comprehension. And one thing that confirmed my dream and thoughts on Panic becoming the god of stories, this Negro would damn sure keep you on a video for 8 hours. He had the most natural ability to tell stories, but he would draw the story out a whole goddamn day. He would tell the story about 3-4 different ways. It was a roller coaster ride, but it was magical. And he has now assumed the role of the god of stories. You know, so I want to say rest in power. I want to play 2 videos on Panic. Those of you who don't know who the brother is, just sit back and listen.
Do the occult like I do it. So I can't tell you how to do it, and I can't judge if you're doing it right. Occult means hidden culture. So what it means is you're working on your spirit. So your spirit and my spirit may have 2 different things going on. So I don't even look for, it's nice if we do come across with the same agenda, but I don't look for it, and it's not necessary, because the occult understanding of this reality is not a religion. It's a way to look with clear glasses at what motivates that which is apparently in front of you. So if you're looking from what is the gasoline behind whatever action, and if you start thinking you can control where the gas goes, then you can start to control where the action. We're just really talking about cause and effect here. The cause, when you understand the occult, is a hidden cause. The effect is the apparent shit around you. You get what I'm saying? So you want to focus, the occult is practicing first and then mastering the art of the cause, that hidden cause. So when you do ritual, when you do certain things that look imaginary, you're interfacing with invisible. And the invisible is imaginary to the world of the real. So you're dealing in the real, in the realm of imagination and in the realm of visualization.
And let me just make this statement, because I saw somebody saying that they didn't like how I put them on blast with Sophia. I'll address that. Nobody is beyond reproach, not even I. So if you say something about a person and it's incorrect, you will be checked by the gods that will check you. So he wasn't beyond reproach. A lot of people have deified Panic and deified Bobby. It doesn't mean that we can't make mistakes and we can misspeak on things. Like, for instance, a month ago, I thought that the Arizona Diamondbacks were going to win the World Series. I didn't do the proper math. I just looked at certain things with their stadium, certain history, but it was apparent when you look at the Texas Rangers, I think they won on the 119th day of George Bush age. That's the reverse of 9/11. And they had Dick Cheney, who was in the same president, campaign with George Bush, go out and throw the ball on one and had George Bush come back out and throw a pitch. That should have already let you know, in the year of skull and bones, you got George Bush out there throwing a pitch. You got to do the proper research. So I misspoke on that. So anybody can be addressed is the reason why I brought it up with Sophia, because he was speaking on the sister and he was completely wrong. And I'm good friends with Sophia. So yeah, I did call him out. I'll do it again too. This is the book collection here that he left for you to get, so you can write some of these books down and order them right now to begin, research into what he was looking into.
Glorious. Decatur East Side ATL. You can't protect your way out. Sissy.
Verbalizer, what time is it?
The gods have come. The dark side speaks.
Verbalizer, what time is it?
Bobby Emmett for the strong. Hotep for the weak.
Verbalizer, what time is it?
We come from the east to teach in the west.
Verbalizer, what time is it?
The masters teach. My science is deep.
And
All right, so make sure you go get those books. I have every one of those books here in my book collection, and we want to say rest in power to him. Make sure to support Khadijah and his family. If you could make a donation, if you ever listen to Brother Panic, please do so. I've already done so. And make sure to support his celebration party in Atlanta on the 25th to show support if you knew of his legacy. So it's our role as well to assume the God of stories in our own universe. So I don't relegate the God of stories title to him. That's what I'm saying. None of us is above reproach. All of us have to be a part of the work. So you're supposed to become the God of stories just like him. Because right now, what they're doing, these people running the world, they're connecting the Nordic mythology. That's why they came out with that Loki. And they got all of these things out with the Nordic gods. I mean, your days of the week, all of them are named after Nordic mythology. They're connecting with that Nordic mythos real heavy right now because they believe that the Uthark in the Futhark runes and its mysticism can save them, can save their souls. They believe that the magic from their ancient ancestors is going to save them. So the real truth isn't going to lie in just the mythological characters and their roles. The real truth is understanding your trauma, bliss, and symbols. Panic used to say it's trauma. What is it? Trauma, symbols, and repetition, but we put a little bit of a remix to help understand it a little bit deeper. So trauma, bliss, symbols, and repetition is the only thing saving your ass. If God, which is a Nordic word, once again, when you say God, you're literally saying blonde-haired deity. So even this word God is a mistake that we use, but we still use it. Yeah, the word God is a 6th century Germanic word. It's not even the real word of the deity of whatever you worship in. We're under a big mind spell. Huge mind spell. So if God represents that, we had a master teacher by the name of C. Freeman L. that taught Bobby and Panic. He used to call God, G-O-D, the generator, the operator, and the destroyer. The bliss state represents the G, hence the G spot. You get it? Which is the androgyne light, the androgynous light that we all come from, the pleroma, which is what we're trying to get back into. We're getting back into the G, which is the 7th letter. It represents the copulation of sex physically and from an alchemical mental state of blending masculine and feminine archetypal modalities, which triggers the Hyros Gamos. We spoke about this term on Patreon, your Hyros Gamos, those dreams that you have, that you copulate with the metaphysical form of yourself as a different gender or the same gender, what they call it, morning bliss, morning glory, when you get the morning wood, but you may have a certain aesthesis, a metaphysical sensation in your body from the bliss that can trigger, you start to have some spasms from this bliss that comes from these realms. So there's something called allomancy that we also speak about, the allomancy of the multiverse. I'll get into that in a second. So the O in God is our status. O or zero represents space and the full circle. And that is why we are here, to achieve our status on the next plateau of the hierarchy into the spiritual planes of existence. That's what that represents. And finally, you have D, which represents the trauma. This is, and that's more delta waves, where we can feel, or where we fail to make our transcendence. This is where we must disseminate the differences of spirituality and spiritism right here in the middle. And this is where we learn the ins and outs of what's impacting the world invisibly that can't be seen with the two eyes. So some systems of spirituality believe reincarnation is necessary. That's the bodhisattvas. While spiritism, it focuses on disembodied spirits that brings us messages. Two different things, two different practices. So trauma, status, and bliss gets us to where we become the generator, operator, and destroyer. You be seeing these Marvel characters have these abilities. I'm going to speak about the shadow. You got to get through the shadow to get to this level. But you'll see charts like Dragon Ball Z. You'll see these people able to fire, photonic type of trajectory and resonances from their hands. Even when you went to church, you remember when the preacher tried to lay his hand on you, he was trying to inflict these energies on you and make you fall down so the church can see that he has some type of power. But really what he was doing, he was just trying to mush your head back. and they put the mind control in us. Well, you don't really want to embarrass the preacher in front of everyone. So you just fall out and just act like he did something to you. But in truth and power, you're able to literally do these things that you see in the cartoons and movies. It may not be physically energy concussive waves, but there's invisible things that can happen that you can do with your body and your form here in the physical. You can perform miracles in these realms, and they know it. Brian says, once you are operating from the heart, which is bliss, the God state, then the completion state begins, the 7, as long as you are consistent. Cosmic Crystal says, you're doing amazing work. The way it was done was only off-putting, but there's no biggie. I appreciate your work and time. Black Knight says it's the chi energy. And Jared says the hot points. Remember the childs? Remember the childs. There you go. So we have that ability as well. And we're going to talk about how you can do that today. But we got a lot to get into. So all in all, the trauma, status, and bliss gets us to where we become the generator, operator, and destroyer, the God, the Lord of our reality. Then we must, by becoming God, now you have to face Satan, which is the darkness within us, to synthesize the states of nucleosynthesis within our soul. Nucleosynthesis is the process that stars are going through. You ever heard the saying, every man and woman is a star? Well, the soul is representative of the same alchemical makeup of what's happening with stars. Stars are not big balls of fire that we thought they were when we were kids. We're actually learning cymatics, the study of waveforms. They're a form of waveform physics out there. It's not balls of fire and all of that. That don't even make sense in a vacuum. So we're learning a new way to look at stars by studying cymatics, and cymatics can tell us more about ourselves. But nucleosynthesis is the process of the cymatics and stars. And now on Patreon, you will see that we have now possessed the book, The Physics of Darkness, Necro Yoga, thanks to probably show a picture of it here, but thanks to Leah. Leah helped us get it. See, they don't even have a picture of this thing. They ain't playing no games about that. Let me try to put Necro Yoga W.H. Mueller. See that? Yeah, they don't got no pictures of this thing. Yeah, they ain't playing no. Let me see if this got it. A books. Yeah, see. So you can't even find this thing really, but we got the whole book on Patreon. So we chilling. We got the whole book. We got the Physics of Darkness. We got some other books too in the Skype group. I'm gonna start posting as well. But we chilling real hard. Now, why is that book important? Once you get the book, it took me to a new level because I already studied all of the Hebrew stuff. I started that way long ago, and it's important to know the Hebrew, all of this stuff going on with Israel. We'll get into that. But there's something in it that's equating the Hebraic letters or constants and variables to what the soul equation is. It's called the dual horizon formula. The dual horizon formula. How to destroy the former universe and open the third eye, which is the conscious field in the next trajectory's convergence point. Our destiny threads are called the Sutramen. Sutramen is spelled Sutraman. It's a Vedic term, which also is another term for the Vedic word vrittis. Vrittis are vortexes that are eddying in cyclical movements. The word eddy means the vortex. And they eddy within something called a sutra. So a sutraman is a eddying sutra. And the sutra explains the purpose of our spiritual self, known as the Purusha, which is a evolved light separate from the third dimensional color spectrums, that is being served through something called the Nirodha, another Vedic term, which means the canceling out through a process of selfhood training to attain mastery. So the Sutraman draws the attention of the person doing the work into the absolute nature of our spiritual self, and the ultimate goal becomes that in our yoga, to draw that out. So the present sutra establishes direct connection with the final sutra, which is called quantum entanglement. So what I'm showing you here on this chart, the dual horizon formula, is the key to why we do shadow work. So you see this, it says A equals MSH squared, means in the terms of stellar nucleosynthesis that Aleph, which is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is the energy produced by the conversion of the mem hydrogen into shin, which is helium. The framework for this transformation is set by the speed of light. Accordingly, E equals mc squared in its transmuted form as Ain. If you know Kabbalah, you know what this means. Ain equals msh squared, which signals an inner soul nucleosynthesis in which the universe that is so limited by E equals mc squared is as a reversal. So to speak, he's clarifying, it becomes canceled, destroyed. So this destruction of universe has been pointed out in magic, particularly with the regard to opening the third eye. He just gave you the equation of the third eye. And most people that hear that will be sitting on the fact that it was a bunch of big words. You know, can you please simplify it? Everything doesn't need to be simplified. He said it's out of focus. It's too long for me to focus all the way in, but I'll do the best I can. So the third eye signals to us as the Trinity, which is cosmologically represented by Shin, in which occupies the value of the speed of light in the Thoth or Thoth formula. By opening the third eye and then leaving this space-time continuum of E equals mc squared, the world is annihilated to the extent that it changes in the perception of the redeemed individual. So he's saying to leave this reality will redeem the soul. Well, they tell you that Jesus and all of this stuff is supposed to redeem you. But they do tell you that you're going to go into a new world, so to speak, heaven. But it's funny, everybody trying to get to heaven, they don't want to go to hell. But the Bible says that heaven and hell will pass away. So even the dimensions here, let me pull that up. Heaven and hell will pass away. Those of you who think I'm bull. Matthew 24:35, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. You can look up the other transliteration. Let me see if they got it here, because people were like, well, that ain't King James Version. King James Version, the real thing. We'll look, King James Version. King James Version, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. So same thing. Same thing right there. All right. So he's saying leaving the space-time continuum of the Einsteinian physics is going to get you out of this world, and then you open your third eye, you become redeemed, and you move to something outside what is the physics of what the speed of light is. It's called the Thoth formula. Then he says, anyone who is on a ladder and takes one rung at a time, climbs it, leaves one rung at a time behind them, but he doesn't destroy them, the ladder remains the same. Only his view of the rungs below him has changed. That's some phenomenal info right there. And that's just a little bit. It gets complicated, but you got to be able to understand the physics to get to the next level. All right, so the dual horizon formula. This thing is out of this world. I'm not going to read all of this. So those of you, if you feel like, oh, I don't want to read all this, we're not going to read all of this right here. This is Patreon stuff, but the dual horizon formula is the key to why we do shadow work. We are going to get, today is going to be very special, because even though I'm not going to read all of this, we're going to read some other stuff, later on. So we're going to get a PhD in soul physics today, because I have a lot I want to say, but we want to slow roast everything so we don't put too much on, and we make sure it's all understood. So When you look at Tahuti or Jehudi, in my latest Patreon article, I spoke about the bird people. Put a thumb up if you saw the article on the bird people, because we got a lot to talk about. So Thoth is a ibis-headed man. There's literal bird people in the world. And this thing right here is going to blow your mind. Now, we ain't talking, listen now, Ani has not lost his mind. I ain't talking about no people running around with no bird heads. So you don't have to worry about that. I already see somebody with the little question, the question head in the chat. Like, did he think some people walking around with some bird heads? We all know that's esoteric and everything. But we got to get deep into it anyway. Even if you think that. So this research was something Wendy and I had been looking into since earlier this year when I did the Illuminati Penguins video on Donut's channel. We made a full circle to that information we started on since 2020, because they've been giving us little increments of information about the Phoenix. Now, we'll come back to that later if we can. This Phoenix thing, remember in 2020, they were comparing the C word to this word Corvus. It's all in the article. So people were talking about the word Corvus looks mighty identical. I'm sorry, guys. I still got that comment up there from earlier. Let me cut that comment off. Go over here. All right. So we were talking about these bird people, but the C word looks like Corvus 19. What is the word Corvus? A corvid is a group of ravens or crows. Now, the difference between a raven and a crow, all it is the feather patterning. And I think ravens have like a longer neck and they're a little bit bigger. They're not much of a difference. They're both of the Corvus bird species. So they're very identical. You can easily mistake a raven from a crow. Now, so all Corvus groups of bird families, they're carrion feeders, meaning they're sort of like buzzards. They feed on death. They flock in large groups. So if they flock in large groups, think about it. Corvid, and the other word I won't say, the opposite of the CDC. So the CDC says it's dangerous to make personal contact. So they told you to stay what? 6 feet from each other. Ironically, 6 feet from each other, you're buried 6 feet on the ground, right? Everybody heard that before. Well, these birds, they cluster in about at least 18, 19 different birds in one group setting. So that would be the complete opposite of what the CDC would want you to do. The word Corvid does the opposite. That's called an inversion ritual. You said The Good Burger was filmed in Corvin, California. Coincidence, Adonijah. You know? So interesting enough, this thing is crazy. So the difference between a raven and a crow is that a raven A raven doesn't travel prototypically in very, very large packs of birds. Yeah, I know. I'm going to talk about the god Odin. We're going to slow roast this. The raven usually travels with one other companion or friend. It's not always the opposite gender. It's always two ravens, just like on Odin's shoulder. He has two ravens called Hunin and Munin. Hunin and Munin. Now, similar in Star Wars, look into the Sith, the dark side of Star Wars. They're called the Sith. And usually there's a Sith master and a Sith master's apprentice who ends up always trying to usurp the Sith master for the #1 spot. So there's always two Sith, just like there's only two ravens. Another synchronicity that can be made is the 17th century plague doctor's mask. You heard of the plague doctor. Everyone's seen this picture before. By now, you don't seen a movie with this mask in it, some way, somehow. Now, I went to Chat GPT and asked the origin of the plague doctor's mask. Guess what it said? It said that the plague doctor's mask is based on the beak of a bird, specifically the common raven, the Corvus cordorax. The long beak of the mask was filled with sweet-smelling substances, such as dried flowers, to combat the unpleasant smell of disease during the time of the Black Death. The mask also had glass openings in the eyes to protect the doctor from breathing in contaminated air. So he's wearing a raven's mask back then in the Black Death that the Moors had to come in and clean all of that up, provide elixirs and all types of stuff. So that's another raven connection. And once again, there's a Corvus connection to what's called a black swan event. What is a black swan event? The black swan theory is a metaphor that describes an event that comes as a surprise and has a major effect and is often inappropriately rationalized after the fact with the benefit of hindsight. That's what happened in 2020. So that there's another dark bird, which isn't a coincidence. 9/11 was a black swan event. So these things has its own spiritual ontological emittance throughout reality. You know, not just only to what happened to society recently in the 19th century, we can dive into antiquity and find even more information. So just like with Odin and his two birds, Hunin and Munin. See if I have a picture of Odin on here. If not, I can, oh, here it is, right? I'm about to say, I could pull it up. If not, but this is one of the classic pictures of Odin. He has these two ravens. Yeah, that is old school. Yeah, somebody, yeah, you know about that. Hunin and Munin brings Odin the information of the world. One represents thought, the other represents memory. Odin is the original hangman, an esoteric trope of how he hanged on the world tree Yggdrasil. Did you remember in Loki? At the end of Loki, he became Yggdrasil. He literally became the multiverse. This was the tree that was formed at the end of Loki. So the Yggdrasil tree is the multiverse. And it was Loki's destiny to sit on his throne and hold the roots of Yggdrasil to all of the planes of existence and fulfill his duty as a god, which is to hold down the multiverse, to become it. But Odin hangs himself from the Yggdrasil tree to acquire the knowledge of the runes and other worlds. So we are here to acquire knowledge of conscious fields outside the physical, and sometimes sacrifice is necessary. By sacrifice, I mean sacrificing our time and dedication to the spiritual development gives us the opportunity to seize the moment. And the hangman archetype is also used by elites to obtain control over certain magical currents. They just did a hangman ritual with your boy 50 Cent. Who saw that 50 Cent picture circulating? They had him at a concert, and everybody was wondering, what song does 50 Cent have that requires him to do this? And look at his hands here. His hands is doing some type of Masonic symbolism. But this is a hangman ritual. But they did the hangman in 50 Cent first video. In 50 Cent first video in the Super Bowl back in 2021, his first video, he was hanging upside down. So they always got this Negro hanging upside down. And it means sacrifice. Hold on, let me pull that back up. So his first video is in the club. This is him when he's young. Remember, he was hanging upside down. Then you got the performance when the Rams was in the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, got him hanging upside down again. The hangman, which is in the tarot deck. The original hangman was actually Odin. Now they hang melanated people from trees. That's symbolic, or they've been doing that. That's symbolic. That goes back in ancient times, the hangman. But now they got these actors and actresses and public figures symbolizing the hangman. So got them hanging again right here. Now, this is the thing. To hang on the Yggdrasil tree is how you secrete your subtle bodies into the multiversal schematics of the Kabbalistic Yidam. On the Kabbalah, each Sephirah or divine emanation, the spears you see on Kabbalah, those of you who don't know, y'all know I like to clarify what I'm saying. I'm sure most people know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, this is the Kabbalah tree right here. And every circular part of the tree represents an emanation until you become physical. So this is called the tree of life. This is also called the world tree in Nordic mythology. All right. Yeah, hanging is a form of crucifixion, right? So at the end of the Loki series, Loki learns how to control his time slipping and he becomes the multiverse. I'm going to tell you what that's all about in a second. I'm going to tell you what that's all about. Let me get back into this information. So, In Star Wars, I was speaking about how the Sith is in groups of twos. But if you look at what the Jedi were doing in Star Wars, they were kidnapping children who had high midichlorians. So kids who had high midichlorians, the Jedi will come and take them and start to train them. Kids all over the universe. Now, the midichlorians is high levels of melanin. Remember, my definition of melanin is different. We ain't talking about skin color here. That's melanocytes. You got to know the proper scientific term. Melanin is the cosmic intelligence that organizes the spiritual planes. It is the darkness of what we're trying to use physics to understand is melanin. The melanogenesis, the genesis of darkness and how light is casted from it. So before darkness even reaches the physical, it becomes these dark teguments. These dark teguments neutralize sunlight, gamma rays, and does something genetically to the person. So the Jedi Council was stealing children, mind manipulating them to become a soldier for the council and making them face the Sith and do things for the Republic or whatever, these other people in government. So they're taking the starseed children and they're making them weapons. Right. Order 66, they all got sacrificed. You remember that? It's funny. Brother Panic equals 66. It's interesting. But in the Klipop, because the whole entire Star Wars is Kabbalah. When you look at Star Wars, when Luke didn't want to leave his mother for his training, then he came back and figured out they killed his mother. That was Kabbalah. That was him slipping from Bina, then he became Doth, because once they killed his mother, he was changed forever. So it was speaking about Kabbalistic terminologies of physics of how you slip in these levels sometimes in our development while we're still in the physical. Yeah, that was Kabbalah. His mother was Bina, then he became Doth. Then what happened? He became Darth Vader. Not Luke, I'm sorry, Anakin. Anakin didn't want to complete his training. Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Then Luke, his son, has to face him later on. That's all Kabbalah too. That's Kabbalistic. So the reason why I bring that up, in the Klipop, which is the backside, so when you go into Doth, Doth is a portal. Doth is not even on the tree of life. You see how it has broken lines right here? It's saying that it's here, but it doesn't really exist, but it doesn't exist on this dimension. Where it exists on the backside of the tree. It's called the tree of death, that the God of the Bible told you not to look into. So if you looking into this, it'll get you in trouble. I'm trying to channel my inner panic. It's a lot of glyphs for the tree of death. I think this is a good one here. So this is the tree of death. Damn, it's got to be that big? Okay, whatever. Thaumiel is at the top. Lilith is at the bottom. So this is a tree of knowledge. All right, so entering Doth, the reason why I bring up the Qliphoth, you see how the level right above Gamliel and across from Samael is called a Rabzarak, and it's called the Ravens of Dispersion. Going back to this bird thing. Like I said earlier, ravens live off the death and decay of bodies from the battlefield. So it's literally represents the spirit of death. And Hugin and Munin bring the messages and prophecies to the free consciousness of the person, then disperses back in the world to bring more information. So we assume form of the raven. It's saying that you assume form archetypically of a raven when you're in the darkest regions of the astral plane where your shadows are. And I'm going to give you a great explanation of what your shadows is. Just stick with me. Finish the video with me and you'll understand it all. So you assume the form of a raven, it says in the tree of death, and you fly these dark planes that exist inside of us. And here is where you find the explosive creative expressions of the soul, which is called the black baptism. Whereas the dove is Yeshua, baptized in the light. The raven is the person baptized through the dark emotions of themselves. And this is the negrito phase of alchemy that breaks up, dissolves the old world, the old point of view that you had, and resurrects the new one to the surface, which is called Venus Alicgitimia. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it is the mother of the daemon that becomes born into the higher worlds. Now, speaking of the dove, recently articles came out. You got to pay attention to what's going on in the world because they tell you everything. Articles came out and said they spotted a rare white raven. This thing doesn't happen. So it doesn't even need, you don't even need to become the dove. They already have the alchemy here. It's a white raven comes when it goes through a process called lucism. This happened last month. White ravens spotted in Arkansas became a big story in America. The lucism in the ravens are a shift in the melanin pigments. It represents alchemy. In Hebraic physics, it said that Yahuwah, the God of the Israelites, will send certain symbolic symbols down to earth in the form of an animal mutation to signify a great shift in the Israelite soul pattern. Big note right there. Very big note in the video. So it said that the God of the Israelites, it will send certain symbolic signals down to earth, and you'll spot it when these animals have these mutations to signify the great shift in the Israelites' soul pattern. Another example, they had a double-headed heifer appear in the 90s. Two-headed heifer. And they said when you see something like this, I know it looks kind of gory. I don't even want to put it up there. But you see this dual-headed heifer, it represents something alchemically shifting in the soul of the original soul group. A double-headed heifer symbolizes Yeshua, the Christos, and the synthesizing of the polarities to reorganize a new heaven realm in us all. So when you start seeing these animals like this, it means that a new heaven realm is forming, because it's an enigma for it to happen. And Christ is the ultimate type of enigma. If you look at all the animals associated from the Christ going back to Egypt, a crocodile is an enigmatic animal. Why is it enigmatic? Crocodiles, when a crocodile see you, it's the only animal that will undoubtedly attack you. It's coming to kill you. Even if it ate something, it's coming to eat you. It's coming to kill you. Or I think it's either an alligator or a crocodile, one of those species. Wherever the medulla oblongata, it has a medulla oblongata. It's like one of the only animals that has a medulla oblongata, and it causes it to become more violent than other animals. So it's an enigmatic animal, the crocodile. And in Kemet, they called the crocodile god the Meshi. The Meshi is where you get the word Messiah. And then in the Bible, they said that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. Well, a donkey is an enigmatic animal. You can't get a donkey to do shit. It's very stubborn. And also the donkey-headed deity is Set, by the way. So they were implicating Set right there. But all of these different animals associated with the Christ are enigmatic. I can go through a whole history of those animals. But when you see it in the mutation, it represents a new heaven realm being born in the Israelite souls, the original soul group. And this white raven surely indicates the Christological physics to our souls traversing across the plenum and attaining new spheres of consciousness along the way. It's just up to you to unlock the shit. That's on you. If you can't do it, that's on you. So if you go into gematria, you put ravens in, you get 360. Raven equals 360 in Sumerian gematria, which is a sexagismal system based upon sixes. There's 360 degrees in a circle, and the glyph of a circle is a prime representation of the soul, also time itself. The Sumerians were obsessed with esoteric and anthropomorphic deitic forms of bird beings. So we're about to get into the bird information. Then I'll talk about Project Raven and some of this stuff going on. So the Sumerians were obsessed with these bird beings. And there were Sumerian magicians that will place protective deities resembling bird-headed deities around the king's palace, wherever they thought to be most effective, often by a doorway. And then there's later references in the information that the bird-headed people could have represented a literal race of people that were the first genetic engineered clones. Now you got to stick with me with this one. So genetic engineering was one of the prime things the Sumerians were into. In my article, I highlighted, there's a couple things I highlighted. In Sumerian magic, which is a real thing, one of the oldest historical systems of magic, Sumerian magicians were called the Mashmash. And the Mashmash have educated Sumerologists over thousands of years of their practices, which constitute a sizable portion of religious, forced cuneiform literature that they left behind of these gods and goddesses that have absolute and unchecked authority over the cosmos. These gods possess two unique forces, the May and the Namtar. The May is a cosmic power that determines the essence and function of things. In a philosophical sense, they're talking about an object, event, or entity. The word used literally means to be. The word May, M-E, it belongs to each deity, and it is the responsibility of the deity to use their May appropriately. For instance, the goddess Anana, for example, has among her May various methods by which she utilized sex and performed it, and how sex can be used erotically, romantically, and politically. Then you have the god Ishkor and his May, which he controls the gathering of clouds and dictates whether the clouds become a windstorm, a thunderstorm, or an ice storm, or even a dust storm. So of course, authority can be abused, and to counteract a god, spirit, or monster that is operating outside of the assigned boundaries, the gods make use of another magical ability called the Namtar, which is the Sumerian word of fate and destiny. And Namtar allows a god to override the May and force the cosmos to behave in accordance with their will. This is what they did with cloning. So what we're talking about is an abnormal event that isn't supposed to happen, but because of the degree of their deitic abilities, they're able to force certain types of physics into this dimension that isn't supposed to be capable of happening. And they left clues behind to when they did it. You see? So we've been looking into this thing, and we've explained both sides of the Sumerian system of magic. The Sumerians believed that this Anzu bird, the anthropomorphic being that holds the pine cone and gave knowledge of magic and genetic engineering that created gods and men, there's hidden mysteries in the bird people that connects the raven, the C word 19, X-Men, and Sumerian anthropomorphic iconography. Now, the first thing you have to look at is the movie Dark Crystal, the Skeksis. Put a thumbs up if you've seen Dark Crystal before. Remember, they had the bird-headed figures in Dark Crystal. In the movie is about two groups of beings. Yeah, Jim Henson, who made the Muppets, created it. I see the Masonic symbol right over here. They hide it. There's some Sumerian stuff on the wall. But these are the same anthropomorphic beings in the Sumerian tablets. Who are the bird people? Why do we often see so many hints of their existence? In Dark Crystal, all things on Thra, which is possibly in the entire cosmos, are connected. And it's made manifested in the crystal of truth. The Gefling, which is these beings over here, which these Skeksis would drain their essence. They would use the crystal to zap their bodies and drain the energy out of them, sort of like Lush, to maintain their immortality. But the Geflings were beings of a higher presence of mind and were able to physically tap into that connection. The Skeksis were born out of the mystics Let me show you a picture of the mystics. And I did a dark crystal breakdown on my last channel. Very pivotal research on what's going on, because the dark crystal is also melanin and it's carbon. The dark crystal is carbon. So this is a picture of a mystic. So the Skeksis and the mystics used to be one being. Long ago on Thra, these beings existed together in harmony called the Earth Skeks. So at one time, this being, this anthropomorphic bird, was fused with this old looking bird or whatever that is, and they were this thing, which is the whole UFO theory, or not UFO, extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial theory. Okay. So the Skeksis were born out of the mystics in polarity. They were drawn across the universe by the crystal of truth. The Earth Skeks used the crystal to try to purge the darkness within themselves. But the experiment ended in disaster, and the Earth Skeks were split into two new species, the cruel Skeksis and the gentle mystics. To a degree, we are witnessing genetic engineering of races. The Earth Skeks were the ancient Moorish genetics, and the Skeksis and mystics are a combination of different races today that spliced off. But as I said, the dark crystal is the carbon, and everything in the universe is connected through carbon. And this could be analogous to the higher self and the lower self of what we're witnessing. The Earth Skeks could represent the extraterrestrial origins of our genetic makeup, and the return of the Crystal Palace at the end of the movie could symbolize the alchemical nature of the soul, sifting out its imperfections on taking on a new formality to transmogrify consciousness. To do so, we must access the Negredo, which is the blackening stage or melanosis in alchemy. Then out of the Negredo, we go into the albedo, the whitening stage, or the leucosis, like the raven. Then you have the centronitas, the yellowing stage, or the xanthosis. And then final, the rubedo stage, the reddening or the purpling, the iosis. Then we have access to the angels. Why are angels depicted as bird people? Is this making sense? Put a thumbs up if it's making sense. Why are angels depicted as bird people? Comes right back to what the video is about. Put a thumbs up if it's making sense. So you have these angels. Then they talk religiously in religious sects across the world that the daimon, the demon or the devils, is supposed to break us down so we can assume more definite roles in our angelic form. Now, there's something called the Cauda Pavanis, the peacock's tail, which is reverence of superseding our chakras through charge implosion. So the Caudas Pavanis, or Pavanis, could be pronounced that, but it's an alchemical term that you can look up. It's called the peacock tail. All right, so I don't like that picture. Well, that Tumblr kind of messed it up. Let's see if this looks better. Okay, all of them from Tumblr. So y'all see what it is, just a peacock's tail. So The peacock's tail symbolizes the reverence of superseding our chakras through charge implosion, our magnum opus, which is the perfect theomorphic version of ourselves. We're trying to become the perfect theomorphic version of who we are. Birds like the raven, the swan, and phoenix could be used to represent the progression through the colors, similar to how color changes in auric fields. It could be seen in the laboratory where, for example, blackness or of rotting or burnt fermenting matter would be associated with the negrito. So earlier I was showing you pictures that could represent the phasing of these bird people. Then there's other research, because they're saying that these could represent a genetically engineered person. To genetically engineer someone, it has to go through a process of putrefaction through putrefaction. What if the Sumerians tapped into their genetic memory and discovered how to genetically engineer a bloodline? That's the next step. Now, I am not an Anunnaki enthusiast like most YouTube grifters. That's what I'm gonna call them. Most YouTube grifters go straight to the Anunnaki, and they get a lot of praise for doing that. I tell you the truth, I don't even believe really in the Anunnaki. I'll just be honest. That's some bull crap. I believe that if the Anunnaki is even a real term, it was created by Zionists. And the Anunnaki is an alchemical attainment like the Christos. It ain't no people from Sumerian coming on a spaceship from Nibiru or some bull crap like that. That's the same thing they gave you with the whole religious thing all over again. It is put it in extraterrestrial form from some new sun or planet that's out here. So what if the anthropomorphic depictions indicate knowledge of the androgyne, if not knowledge of creating a soul, or if it, let's just say that if it wasn't creating a soul, finding what makes the soul, which is a metapersonal universe or realm, susceptible to cessernation via identification. That's just separation, identification, in that the bird anthropomorphism in Sumer was a genetic bloodline that they identified, that they had been a part previously of an androgyne realm, hence why the church began to put wings on human beings when it came to angels and heavenly depictions. What if they got it from these people in Sumer? Now, you heard of Abraxas. You heard of Abraxas before. Gnostic god. So Abraxas was a Gnostic anthropomorphic system that propagated this bird people theory again, that the archons want to recycle us again and again, then delete our memory. The problem with society today is that we cannot identify the real from the fake. We know cloning exists, and conspiracies run rampant in Hollywood that people on the world stage could be clones. What if the synarchy perfected the cloning like the genetic altering process of the androgyne in Sumer, in that the bird people are the neon humans, the new clones, or the cloning of the day? And there's different depictions. Wendy found some of these pictures, and I found the rest of them, that in certain indigenous cultures, they identified the bird people by having a long, elongated neck. Long, elongated necks could be an indication of that genetic memory of bird people. And you'll see the long necks on a lot of iconography in different indigenous cultures, especially in the Americas. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's not to say that people with long necks are genetic clones, but I think that there's a way to spot who these clones are. And bird people are just identifying one genetic engineered group of the cloning. It's not identifying cloning in its entirety. It's just spotting one part of the group that they could have an ancestor that was genetically engineered. Put a thumbs up if that makes sense. I got y'all throwing up thumbs crazy. Shout out everyone in the chat. Getting a little heavy today. I know we're deep into this thing. So Abraxas, the Gnostic god, was the false and degenerate demigod. The Gnostic Abraxas created the material world and had demonic qualities. He is the supreme power of being, in whom light and darkness are both united and transcended upon. Orthodox Christians viewed Abraxas as the demon. In return, Abraxas became a favorite deity of the heretical sects of the Middle Ages. Abraxas was also the name of the sun-mounting Ouroboros, the snake biting his tail, and according to the Jews and Freemasons, he's the god of material creation, the creator of numerical coding. And is it a hidden name when we say Abraxas for clone people with bird-like features, possibly the phoenix? Because you remember Twitter was a bird and it was turned into an X. The original symbol of the X is a phoenix bird. It's supposed to be a phoenix bird right in the center. That marks the middle of the X. That's an old symbol, mainly in Russia. That's why the Habsburg adapted the coat of arms of the phoenix. But I think the symbol is older than Russia within itself. It's way older than Russia. So this X thing has a lot to do with it. I'll get into that in a second. So transhumanism, nanophysics, and genetic engineering could be the synergized black projects for 2030. Who remembers the show Westworld? They kind of showed you some stuff up in there. Where's my Westworld image? We passed it. But Westworld, in its new season, here it goes right here, has this theory of birds being machines. Now, this goes into Project Raven. The next part of my lecture. Have you ever heard of Project Raven or Operation Raven? It was a Nazi project where the government would deem certain areas too high with crime and begin a militaristic purging from the inside out with nobody knowing what happened. Okay. Let me see if I'm getting ahead of myself. Hold on. Now we right where we need to be. So we've been looking into this bird information. Even this new generation of kids or people, they used to be kids. Gen Z has been proposing the ideal that the majority of birds were killed off in the 1970s and replaced by surveillance robots. Here you have Westworld deploying some credence to that theory, but I got some videos to add on to it just for entertainment. Let's look into it real quick. Oh, yeah, I got to refresh. We've been on this too long. Give me 1 second, family. I'm operating off iCloud photos, so sometimes you got to refresh it. All right, we back.
Ever wondered why pigeons and birds always sit on power lines? They're charging.
Okay, so they're saying the reason why you see a bunch of birds on power lines is that they're actually charging themselves. And most birds, now they're not saying that all birds are robots. Let me just clarify that, so you don't gotta say I'm crazy or something. Some birds could be robots deployed by the secret societies and the governments to spy on the public. You see what I'm saying? So that's one video. Let's go to the next.
Glitches on camera.
All right, you saw the bird fall out the sky. Hold on, I got some more. Hold on 1 second.
Look normal until you dig deeper. They sit on the wires to recharge. Birds look normal.
They keep saying that these birds sit on these wires to recharge themselves. I'm not sure. This is all they theory. This is Gen Z here. I'm not Gen Z, but I find it interesting. You know, I find it real interesting because I remember that cover of Westworld, and Westworld was one of the best documentary shows on this transhumanism thing probably ever created. So when I saw that, I had remembered instantly that was on the cover. And these Gen Z people really believe that these birds ain't real. They got a lot of evidence. They got some things now.
These birds are floating. These birds are not on the... I can't see them. What is going on?
What is this? What is this? They're floating.
We're in the Matrix.
They're literally on nothing. They're floating.
I'm so scared. Oh my God.
That shit had me laughing. You're like, I'm scared. What are you scared of? You scared of some birds floating? I mean, even how odd that was. He sounded like they were about to turn into something in eater or something like that.
1,000 birds fell out the sky in Chicago. Woo-hoo. Why would you say that many birds would just fall out the sky? 1,000 birds rained from the Chicago sky after a nightmare mass collision with a building that activists have been warning us about for decades. Apparently, the anti-collision activists, which I didn't even know those people exist, they say the building's lights were left on and that drew the birds right into the building. Anybody?
Yeah, so that is this information. Y'all talking about the mosquitoes in the chat. I heard about the mosquitoes. I didn't look deeply into it, but I think, I don't know, it was Jorge or somebody put it in the chat that he went to some meeting and they were saying that was a big military project. So be careful if you see them planes dumping mosquitoes, just like I think something happened in Virginia or something happened in Cali. Y'all said it was something in New York, or it was in North Carolina. Okay, North Carolina. Yeah, let me be very, very careful. Be extremely careful. He said the Baltimore community concert, those mosquitoes came on. Oh, Baltimore too? Well, let me tell you something about Baltimore. Baltimore is very, very huge this year. Keep your eyes on Baltimore. Keep your eyes on it. So Project Raven, Operation Raven, where they can have a militaristic purging from the inside, and nobody knew that they cleaned your ass out months ago. Whole groups of people going, like Bobby used to say. These things are real. They even wrote books on this and got the bird, you know, looking like a robot right here. Got the Raven robot. And Project Raven furthered the ideation in Afghanistan. They had something called Project Raven, which they were using hacking tactics to acquire the location of individuals illegally through social media and the internet. And that also corroborates with Operation Odin. Being that Odin has these two ravens that serve him, it's a tactic. The Operation Odin is a tactic raised under the Trump administration, which was a militaristic, is how they would militaristically force the V word, the jab, onto the public if numbers didn't meet the criteria set forth. What if C-19 Corvid was turning people into a new genetically altered race through the use of nanophysics? Now you got to ponder that shit. Got to really think about it. You said last summer you saw a pigeon that was run over by a car. Its insides was hanging out. The seeds it ate were still in its throat. I was bothered by it and didn't take a picture. Interesting. You said, what are they trying to do? Project Raven in Baltimore, all the local news talk about is juvenile crime. Yeah, Project Raven is everywhere. It is on you. Project Raven, Operation Raven is operating right now. So all this talk, also you'll see people talk about the Phoenix event. I think Jason does a good job looking into that info. I never really, sat down and got to listen to his videos. But the Phoenix event could be a ontological entity magically starting at the quantum level. And this segues into my information on the X dimension. I can't get into the X dimension right now. I'll get in that in a minute. Let me get over here. So they were looking into information on birds. Let's just say some of the birds are real. Some are fake. But they were studying ravens and darker colored birds. And what they determined was that black birds, black or dark pigmented birds can fly higher than other birds because the melanin granules in the wings can serve several functions that help protect the feathers from wear and tear, absorption of radiant energy of the sun, and assist in thermal regulation. So the black birds can fly the highest and the longest. Now, that segues kind of to the X theory, because I'm going to get into X-Men in a minute. But you remember the name of the X-Men's plane was the Blackbird. Am I lying? The name of the X-Men's plane was called the Blackbird, and it had ufological type of advances in technology. Originally, okay, so the X-Men, that's what they named their jet. Its original exit and entry was this hilltop on the property of the X mansion called the Devil's Rock. The Devil's Rock. Isn't that a coincidence? Then they turned a tennis court of the X mansion into a hangar. But the point is, they're talking about the physics of darkness. It's key to how the physics of the soul works. In 2023 is highlighting the raven, which is the Corvus quarterax species, as a huge focus. Now, I was just talking about Baltimore. I predicted that the Ravens could be key to the Super Bowl. Earlier, I showed you this, or maybe I didn't show you this. Every year on the NFL website since 2020, they've been telling you who's going to win the Super Bowl, or who at least is going to be in the Super Bowl. How do you determine that? Look at the colors. The colors on the website show you in the Roman numeral characters which team's color aligns. And you see they since 2020, I think 2021, they've been right. So this year they got this purple one, and the only purple team that's good enough to make it is the Baltimore Ravens. Going back to this Raven thing. Now look, how do I, okay, you think that's not enough information? You might be right. That's not enough information. Okay, you're right. That's not enough information, Ani. You're just making up some bull crap. Okay. Let me show you something. Let me show you a real ritual. First of all, if you go to Gematria, let's see, Baltimore Ravens. Is it a Baltimore Ravens? Hold on. Let me see if I got my numbers correct. So it should be Baltimore Ravens. I don't know where the cipher is. Okay, that's what it is. It's Baltimore Raven. Baltimore Raven equals 223 in reverse ordinal. So I'm missing the S. Hold on, where is it? So it's Chaldean. So Baltimore Raven equals 223, the reverse of Skull and Bones, which is 322. Okay. The 223 meaning, you want to know the 223? What is it? Skull and Bones is 223. No, skull. Is it and bones? Skull and Bones definitely equals 223. I must be putting it wrong. Put something in wrong. It must be the full name of the group. Hold on one second. Let me find it. I got it in my notes. But Skull and Bones equals 223 because their number is 322 and 223 is the reverse. Let me find that real quick for you. Okay, so the original name of Skull and Bones wasn't Skull and Bones. It was Skull and Crossbones. That's why I couldn't find it. So it was actually Skull and Crossbones is the original name. And then they took cross off and then it became Skull and Bones. So just give me a second. And you had it, Sugar Fox. Yeah, Skull and Crossbones 223, but you know Skull and Bones. And the reason why I'm gonna connect all of this information to the X and why the X-Men, their last movie was called Dark Phoenix. I'm getting ahead of myself telling you that. Hold on. Where is my skull and crossbones picture? Let me just pull it up over here. If you look at the main symbol of the skull and bones, which is this is the 322nd anniversary, you'll get the X right here. You got the X, and I got so much X semiotics for your ass. Nobody will be able to deny that this thing has something to do with everything. Now, what was I talking about before then? Okay, the Baltimore Ravens. You said I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Oh, what's going on, Shane? I see you, brother. All of these Raven players been dying. That's how I know. I know that's what it's all about. First of all, Alex Collins, the Ravens running back, died this summer. Number 34, murder is 34, so he died. So they got to sacrifice all of these Ravens for them to at least be in contention for the Super Bowl. So you got the death of Alex Collins, Ryan Mallett, Ravens. I think he was a quarterback. He died. Ryan Mallett died. He died June 27th. Then Jalen Ferguson died. He died of fentanyl poisoning. Anytime you see fentanyl poisoning as a cause of death, the Jesuits sacrificed their ass. They love to kill people by fentanyl. I noticed that. You'll see certain patterns. Or they'll call it fentanyl. They probably killed their ass another way. So that's another Raven. So that's 3 Ravens. Hold on. I'm not going to get to that yet. Y'all want me to jump ahead. Hold on. Tony Saragusa, which is a iconic Raven. I think he's part of that Super Bowl Ravens team. He died. He died in June. And of course, the one that y'all was mentioning, Ray Lewis the third. Ray Lewis, the greatest Raven of all time. His son died. His son had died. His son, or Ray Lewis, sacrificed his son. The greatest Raven of all time. Now, the Ravens football team was named after Edgar Allan Poe's poem. You see? Because Edgar Allan Poe stayed in Baltimore for a little bit. Now, another thing I've been noticing, the script in the NFL is that quarterbacks wearing the number 8 have to go down with season-ending injuries. Remember the first game of the year, Aaron Rodgers went down. Then the other purple team, there's only 2 purple teams in the NFL. Kirk Cousins had a season-ending injury. Then your boy Daniel Jones for the Giants. You know, the Giants, the Nephilim. He goes down. He goes down with a season-ending injury. And if you know anything about the Ravens, their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, they keep changing this guy's birth date. His birth date done changed about 3 times since he left Louisville, another bird team. But he wears the number 8, right? So you better keep your eyes on Lamar Jackson. They was doing a big ritual with him last year anyway. They was doing something with him getting this big contract. But the number 8, the significance is the number of Saturn in affinity. So this is following an NFL strip. He was born on Muhammad Ali's birthday. They don't change his birthday now. I don't know what his birthday is. Now, ain't that sad? I don't even know what this brother's birthday is, because at first he said his birthday was another date. Then I got another interview of him saying that his birthday is another damn date. Then Wikipedia changed it again. So I don't know if they changed it back, but they be changing these celebrities and public figures' birthdays. You got to keep your eyes on that. Yeah, I know their backup is Tyler Huntley, but he got the Heisman playing for Louisville Cardinals, another bird team. Then he goes to Baltimore and he wins the MVP there. So he got the Heisman and the MVP. You said Jackson's daddy and grandmother died on the same day when he was 8 years old. God damn. And that takes me back to the bird people. Have they been genetically engineering celebrities? Because it's very odd how these deaths add up. Are these government assets? Do they bodies literally come out of a cloning facility? And they've been monitoring these people. You said, what is the purpose of doing that? Do you think, I'm sure there's some metaphysics attached to changing a public figure's birthday. It's all about gematria. It's all about gematria. It has to line up. Yeah, like the Boys TV show, they groom them from babies. I talked about Gen B. All of that is about masonry, them selecting people to be on the world stage based on certain abilities and auric readings from the person, probably their blood samples. I don't know. These people are weird as hell. Probably make them take a blood sample, like, ooh, this some rare blood. We're gonna make you into a superstar. So there are no coincidences, as the Ravens are one of the most formidable teams this year. I think they're like 7-3 now. So could the Ravens win the Super Bowl, or will they be a part of the reason why this Super Bowl is significant? And I said that this year has been all about Edgar Allan Poe and his poem, The Raven. When you just type in Edgar Allan Poe Raven, and you just go to news, they won't allow me to do it on Google Chrome. You can do it, but there's been so many stories. Hold on, this might be it right here. There's been so many stories this year about Edgar Allan Poe and the poem, The Raven. Look how much 2023 news is on this poem. And you remember the show I broke down, the Fall of the House of Usher. That was all about the poem, The Raven. Let's go back and talk about that real quick. because we about to get into some deep information. So there's the fall of the house of Usher is about this Hyperborean entity by the name of Verna, which is an anagram to Raven. Now, let me just connect this before we get into that. Remember, they call the show The Fall of the House of Usher. The show came out one day before Usher Raymond's birthday. He's performing at the Super Bowl, and he has that Raymond. Could that be a clue to Raven, like Ray and Raymond? I don't know. But he's performing at the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And speaking of skull and bones, first of all, they buck broke him and they put him in a skirt a couple of months ago. And I told you that the etymology of this word, B-O-F, is basically a sexual act. A boff means to sexually impose yourself on a person. So, and you can look that up on Urban Dictionary. So, Usher is performing at the Super Bowl in Las Vegas this year. He's the first solo performance ever in Super Bowl history. One thing I noticed was that in the middle of this Keke Palmer ritual that's taking place right now, which I'll get into on Patreon. We'll talk about that. But Usher was wearing this Vanson leather jacket with these skeleton bones. And I said, what is this? He's worn this jacket a lot. He's put this jacket on. You see, he had blonde hair here, and here he has regular hair. But he's showcasing this jacket a whole lot. I don't see no reason for a millionaire to be wearing a jacket multiple times. Now, I told you this is the year of the skull and bones. He's wearing a bones jacket. Then I looked into the owner of Skull and Bones. I mean, not Skull and Bones. The owner of the Vanson's Leather Company. His name is Mike Vander Sleazen. Mike Vander Sleazen. Because this Vander Leather, this Vanson Leather, I think it's called the Vanson Leather, has a bunch of celebrity promotion. You know, I just showed you Rick Ross is wearing the same Vanson leather jacket, bones, for his the new album that just came out a couple of days ago. This Mike Van der Sleazen started the company in 1974. Vanson leather bones jacket equals 74. Coincidentally, 74 is a huge magical number. Gematria equals 74. I think I talked about 74 with the Kenan and Kel ritual. So this Sleazen guy started something called the Army of Darkness. And it's some type of manufacturing company for his Saturnalian symbolic jackets. His quote is, to make a good Vanson leather jacket begins with how the cow was raised, how the cow was fed, and then how the cow's hide was tanned and waxed. So killing the sacred cow was something that the ancients said would happen in the future. And ultimately, this is an example of idolatry, because this bones jacket that everybody's wearing, especially the Supreme Edition. This is the Supreme Edition right here. But most of the bones jacket costs about $5,000. It costs about $5,000. And the original Sleazen symbol of the company is a dark phoenix. I was like, what is the coincidence of this? is a German dark phoenix. So I don't know how it keeps falling back into that, but yeah. So the fall of the House of Usher, could they be predicting something that's about to happen to Usher? I hope not. Hope nothing's is about to happen to Usher. The fall of the House of Usher is about a Hyperborean Varillian entity from the Nachi, and I'm using that term, which is a Native American etymological root to substitute the other word from Germany. So this video remains up because they'll find anything to remove your video nowadays with this type of info. But the Nachis were in Antarctica trying to find Mount Meru in excavations of the Thule Society, who believed there was a superior Caucasian race that were responsible for the origins of this realm and left secrets of becoming the Übermensch, which is German for the Superman race. Hence why when you look at Superman, the original symbol of the Superman comes from the Rothschilds' shield, the red diamond shield of the Rothschilds. I know there's a lion here now, but look into the story. So the red diamond shield of the Rothschild was remodeled into an S on the chest with the yellow emblem outside of the Star of Renfon. The S represents the worm Yaldabaoth of Gnosticism. I wish okay, let me pull up the Superman. Okay, so the S represents the worm Yaldabaoth. Is looking into semiotics here. Where did I'm about to say, where did the S go that far? Okay, so the Thule Society and the Nazis believe there was a superior Caucasian race responsible for the origins of this realm and left secrets of becoming the Übermensch, which means the Superman race. Hence why the Rothschild red diamond shield was remodeled into the S on the chest, which represents the worm Yaldabaoth of Gnosticism that creates the physical world. Jerry Siegel, the creator of Superman, had a crush on a Rothschild at his high school named Lois Rothschild. Did you ever know that? So he had a crush on Lois Rothschild. And that's why Lois Lane was born, because the creator of Superman had a crush on Lois. But this all connects to the fall of the House of Usher. These goddamn ads. Because billionaire banking families like the Rothschilds in the TV series were making deals with the shape-shifting entity, a demonic entity who took the form of a raven that was sacrificed. So for you to get the billions, you would have to sacrifice your entire bloodline. So you will get to live old. And when you become old, the raven would return and it will claim that your entire bloodline. So as you die at an old age, everyone as a part of your bloodline has to die by the time you die. So they sacrifice their entire bloodline to become business titans and avoiding all legal liability through the spell that Verna casts. Verna is the anagram of Raven, of course, as I said. So they cut a deal with the satanic figure that could make illusory environments outside of space and time and seal the deal of selling the souls of your future bloodline. Could the celebrities be signing deals to the Jesuit Catholic secret societies, ensuring their affluent wealth by allowing these people to sacrifice their kids? So some of these people are already, sacrificing their kids and grandkids when they please, or having their kids and grandkids born into subjugation under the debt of signing these contracts, whereas the children or grandkids of that lineage has to follow whatever the cult of Edom or the secret society, the synarchy, tells these kids what to do. For instance, Kanye West's daughter, they got her doing all this type of stuff. And you see these kids doing things. Could they already have signed over their children's life? Now you see the one-eye symbolism with the raven mask here. Illuminati symbolism. Yeah, I saw in the movie she was seen with Trump, and Trump's sister just died today. So some TV shows you need to be looking at. Some TV shows you need to be looking at right now. You need to get the show Invincible. Get the comic show, TV series on Amazon Prime, Invincible. They came out with season 2. This is excellent metaphysics to what I've been covering the past few years. Angstrom Levy is the villain in season 2, who is a melanated genius from an alternative dimension in the multiverse. Now, I've been telling your ass about the multiverse. I've been teaching you portal physics, all of this stuff. And then they come out with this season 2 and do everything I've been telling you in the season. Angstrom Levy has an ability to create portals to an alternative dimension in the multiverse. So he existed in a version of the multiverse where Omni-Man and his son Invincible literally took over planet Earth and is prepping for the Viltrumites government to take over and claim the planet. Angstrom and a few others who are organizing and resisting Omni-Man and Invincible, they go on the ground until they're exposed one day. And Angstrom is the only one of his multiversal duplicates that can open portals to other multiverse realities. So he goes around exploring the multiverse, meeting different versions of himself, then gathers as many versions of himself as possible in our current Earth realm to hook them up to a machine that he built along with the clone twins, the molar twins, so that this machine, let me zoom in a little bit. See, these machines got a bunch of different versions of himself hooked up. Their minds is hooked up to the machine, and he's trying to download all of the information they have into him at the bottom. So he's trying to download all the knowledge in the split multiversal versions of himself, so he would have their home dimensions in one mind, his own. Isn't that what I've been talking about the whole time, is connecting with the multiverse forms of yourself? Didn't I say that? put a thumbs up if you heard me say that on this channel. Connecting with the quantum bodies across the multiverse. I've been saying that for years now. Only difference is he built the machine, which the machine ends up getting destroyed by Invincible anyway. And then it makes him into an ugly figure, an ugly brain looking guy, and all of that. So the things that we reveal on this channel and Patreon, you will start to see the patterns of the very aspects of information that we cover, and you will see it pop up in everything that you research, because it's a spiritual current interwoven to the connection to the ethers, and how the way that the input and output of the knowledge is delivered is how it reverberates in your life. So for instance, I had this vivid dream this morning, and I mean the most vivid dream possible that you can have, of another multiverse conscious field form of myself from an alternative timeline. Let me explain to you what dream physics is once again before I get into this. So dreams are the events, emotions, thoughts, memories, and lessons that we learned from the previous day, which is all reviewed, organized, and stored into our lesser causal body while we dream. The process can be compared to the defragmenting of files on your computer, which is your personas. The shadows is your personas, and backing them up with the external storage device, which is your lesser causal body. So the monad, the collective consciousness of the conscious fields from the multiversal forms of yourself, it rapidly switches its awareness between 3 units of the triad in order to organize data, which causes a rapid eye movement when you sleep. That's some powerful shit I just told you. So the vibrations within the persona are etheric, emotional, and mental bodies set up as sympathetic vibrations in the lesser causal body, which produce a permanent copy of the day's lessons and experiences. During the process, memories, desires, and emotions, hopes, and fears are churned up into the subtle bodies and are perceived by the nearby etherical body. The physical etheric brain tries to make sense of these random thoughts and feelings by compiling them into a story, which we know and experience as a dream. You see? You can have, think about 5 different types of dreams: a associative dream, a symbolic dream, a lucid dream, a prophetic dream, and a past life dream. But what's projecting those dreams? It could be the external physical etheric stimuli. And what I mean by physical stimulus, there can be a touch or a sound while you're sleeping that can be blown out of proportion in our dreams by being under duress, which may give rise to some type of instance in your dream about being buried alive, banging at the door, or a bursting sound that'll give rise to a dream about being shot. So sometimes touch sounds can influence how the way the dream goes. Or it could be our internal physical etheric stimuli. So that's different from external, the internal. And if there is no external stimuli for the physical etherical brain to seize upon, it creates a chain of thoughts from its recent memories, and that's what you dream about. Yeah, we're getting real deep right now. Or maybe it's your external emotional and mental stimuli. During sleep, our emotional and mental bodies are free from the dampening effect of the physical body, so their sensitivity is greatly increased. Other people's fragmented thoughts and emotions randomly drift through the subtle bodies, are then seized upon by our consciousness. And even the slightest sexual stimulus is passed down through this external emotional mental stimuli into a conscious thread of the body, which can cause something called morning glory that I talked about earlier. When you wake up, these sensations are called the aesthesis. In the occult encyclopedia, a aesthesis is a spiritual sensation of bliss that we spoke earlier about in the lecture. Morning glory. Some of y'all experience that a lot. The dreams are key to accessing the shadow's residual resonance. Write that note down, because we about to go on a little roller coaster. The dreams are key to accessing the shadow's residual resonance. So there's a residual resonance within the shadows inside of you. The shadows are rifts of cosmic consciousness. We'll get into that in a minute. So I've been having dreams recently of high school neighborhood friends in alternative reality. Now, let me just make this clear. While I'm doing my thing in my day, while I'm chilling, looking up my information, watching YouTube, doing whatever I do, doing my thug dizzle or what I do in a day, I'm not thinking at all about my high school friends, but I'm dreaming about these people that I used to, have life experiences within the 4 years in high school, in alternative realities where we are living alternative lives at either a school or a environment that I have never visited in this lifetime. Is this happening to anyone? Put your hand up if this is happening to you. This may be just happening to a few people with some genetic imprint. It may be happening to a few of you. Some people smoke too much weed to even know what they're dreaming. So those particular friends are magnetic in a sense of quantum entanglement. You remember in the Loki last episode or the last 2 episodes, for Loki to control time slipping and time travel, what did he have to do? He discovered it wasn't about where, when, and how he should focus to time slip. He thought it was about where, when, and how. Remember, Ouroboros, OB told him that. He said, maybe you should focus on where, when, and how. It was an Asian cat. So he tried to do that. He was like, nah, it ain't working. And he was like, well, you got to figure that shit out. What he learned was it's not where, when, and how. It was who you focus upon, which was the people that he cared the most about. Their temporal aura across time would always attract to him magnetically, which allowed for him to time travel throughout time in the multiverse to their temporal auras to acquire the knowledge that he needed to solve a cosmic issue. I said, God damn. That just gave that gave you the key. That should be the end of the video. I just gave the key to the whole entire thing. Well, Loki gave the key. I just decoded it. They talking about the shadows. They're also talking about in your most traumatic states. You all have these traumatic states that you buried deep in your mind. You tried to forget them. You have successfully forget them, but you know it's still there. Something happened to you, something you had to do that you didn't want to do, all types of things. You have to travel back in time to your mind to that exact area or conscious field when that traumatic thing happened, and you have to change the situation of what happened. What does this do? One, it allows for you to access the kinetic potential of the leftover version of yourself that's left behind in that rift. It's just getting darker and darker because you just buried it. You didn't solve it. This is some key stuff right here. So you have to go back to those time frames. The raven symbolizes the shadow in alchemy. The dark phoenix is the alchemizing of the shadow's kinetic potential. And that dual horizon variable that I showed you is X, or 1/2 of X, that I'll break down and show you what was in that last X-Men movie with the dark phoenix. So the shadows are a part of ourselves immersed into a trauma so great. So the shadows are parts of ourselves that are immersed into a trauma so great that it assimilated in the unconscious, subconscious domains of our life experience mentally, and it became the puppeteer plucking the strings to our ego and id in those traumatic events that forever transformed how we viewed this reality on whatever level that the trauma was on, became rifts in our causal subtle bodies for information to be input and output like a portal. And these rifts in our etherical imprint were the critical reasons for us to seek the occult and metaphysical remedy of reflection to why we are here in the first place. Critical note. Yep. Flashpoint paradox. Rewriting the strip. So each rift developed a conscious field of a shadow that buried its own implications inside of the subconscious and housed a kinetic potential to our output within the soul equation. So sometimes our dreams bleed into those rifts of our shadows because our multiversal forms of ourselves also have shadows, and their rifts congregate with our own. Some heavy stuff right here. The inner child is another word for the shadow. You heard of the god Harpocrates, one of the main guys I talk about. It's Harpocrates, the baby of the egg, the god of silence. Hold on, where is it? Harpocrates and Bess. Hold on, there's an iconic statue I'm looking for here. Very, very interesting. They don't got that particular statue up no more, but I've showed you the statue before. I've showed you that several times. So if I can find it, if I can't find, oh, here it goes right here. Here it goes right here. All right. So you see Harpocrates, which is a form of Horus, is standing on the crocodile, and he has scorpions in his hands, which means he's treading across darkness, but he's squeezing the scorpions. This is where they got the Hercules mythology from. In this head up here is the deity Bes, Bobby used to talk about, which I'm going to talk about the two-head man in a minute in the stride what that is. That's the god of fairies right here, the god of the fairies. And all of these guys you see behind them on this stele is the encoded genetic information code to his existence. These are forms that he's assumed across his cosmic journey. So these are also multiversal forms and shadows. Yeah, it's all fractalized. But he can step on the crocodile because he's went through these forms. He's went through the God states. And nothing dark can harm him anymore because it represents the inner child. The inner child has transformed. So we have to become the inner child, which is another word for the shadow. Harpocrates is the god of silence and the baby of the egg coming into form. And I know some of this stuff sounds complicated, but it's making sense to some of you, you know, especially my real Nagas who bang on them archons daily, because this is cutting edge research. So these dreams give play and rise to the main lecture today. And we got to get into this Phoenix thing. We got to get into some scholarship. So if you need to get some food or whatever, we don't got too long because I got to get out of here under an hour. But we got to get into this Phoenix thing and get deep into it. This Phoenix thing is the ultimate achievement of the alchemical state. The word Phoenix is Greek with a few translations. Its root can be traced to the literal Greek phoanias, which means blood red or reddish purple, which is the late Egyptian color scheme of the phoenix. Curiously, the phoenix was also the Greek word for the Egyptian date palm plant. The connection between the phoenix and the palm tree is intricate because phoanias is likely Semitic or Mycenaean in origin. The Egyptian Bennu bird. Meant to have a picture of that up. I showed y'all the Bennu bird on Patreon. That's the original phoenix. So you know I got to get the OG form up here. This is the OG form of the phoenix. So the Bennu bird is the mythological origin of the Grecian phoenix. So you've been seeing all these Bennu space missions. Look up Bennu asteroid or Bennu space mission. This is 2023 had a lot of those. The word Bennu comes from Weben, which means to rise brilliantly or to shine. Bennu was used to refer to both the phoenix and the date palm. The date palm was a plant given a resurrection role due to its hermaphroditic reproduction. So I was going to speak on the origin of light in the cosmos. The X symbol represents androgynous light. That's the Perusia. I'll talk about that later on. But it's androgynous. This plant that the word Phoanias is translated from, that becomes the phoenix, is a hermaphroditic plant, a plant that is of self-fertilization. So it fertilizes itself. potentially leading the ancient man to believe that it possessed the power of spontaneous generation, as did the Bennu bird of the mythology. So the Bennu is related to the Egyptian Benben stone, which means to copulate, referring to a mythical stone or mound that Heliopolis upon which the world was created, the Sun City. Also, you have the Russian folklore, Tsar-Pishtia, which means the firebird, was a kind of trickster deity who initiates a quest for some young hero by dropping a feather. Once the hero collects the feather, he begins a hunt for the Tsar-Pishtia, in the trapping of which would grant some type of boon. The phoenix feather is a recurrent motif in the Hermetic alchemy school of thought, appearing both in the works of the Rosicrucian Christian Rosenkreuz and Michael Mayer. It is said Greek authors were the first to deep dive into the allegorical nature of the phoenix as an aeonic device and a metaphor to the soul. That's an interesting word, aeonic device. The earliest reference to the phoenix is in the Precepts of Chiron, where Hesiod, who lived in 700 BC, simply discussed its longevity, saying, quote, "A chattering crow lives out 9 generations of aged men, but a stag's life is 4 times a crow's, and a raven's life makes 3 times a stag, while a phoenix outlives 9 ravens. But we, the rich-haired nymphs," which were the gods, the children of the gods and the Titans were the nymphs, daughters of Zeus, we outlive 10 phoenixes. That's from the Precepts of Chiron. Chiron is one of the gods of death as well. So the resurrection of the phoenix was also believed by Greeks to correlate with the transition of aeons. This connection came from Manly P. Hall, who posited that the phoenix posited a 600-ish year lifespan, saw 3 phoenix lives, marking the 3 decans, which are stars, of whatever zodiac sign governed the aeon. For alchemists of Egypt and Europe alike, this was more than a symbolic tale. It was one that involved a specific ritual sacrament, that of a Eucharist. That's, the whole Catholic drinking of the blood and all that stuff, composed of bread and blood or their equivalents. This is preserved in our celebration of the Eucharist, be it in the Gnostic Mass, the Mass of the Phoenix, or Pyramidos, as our cake of light preparation is highly derivative of that of the alchemy of the Phoenix. The Egyptian appreciation of the Phoenix didn't include details of this Eucharistic rituals, but unfortunately for us, the Greeks did. But fortunately, the Greeks did. Their skepticism suggests an honest telling, which is perhaps omitted from Egyptian writing. So this is good right here, because this tells us sometimes when you can't get it from one mythology, you can go to another part of the world and get something that you never heard before from another mythology. That's why it's important. Mythology is the highest goddamn physics on the planet. If you ever tried to read mythology, you can see it's very difficult from certain traditions. It's really equations of constants and variables in mathematics. Those are the characters. So the Greeks solved a equation of the Phoenix that the Egyptians, I'm not going to say that they didn't solve it, but they didn't reveal that they solved it. So the skepticism suggests an honest telling, which perhaps which was omitted from Egyptian writings because it was a initiated secret. So you had to be initiated to know this secret of the Phoenix. So you're getting some good info. But the Greeks are notorious bean spillers. So they like to gossip. So the preservation of ritual elements surrounding this action suggests it may have been continued in a adjacent tradition, helming from a Abrahamic tradition, just as Genesis 14, which records that Abram was initiated into the tradition of bread and wine by Melchizedek, who, like the Egyptians, was a tradition rival to that of the Hebrews. Manly P. Hall suggests in Melchizedek in the Mysteries of Fire that the phoenix is symbolical of the supernal order of Melchizedek that operates something like Crawley's secret chiefs. Now you can get the whole Crawley's secret chiefs in a book called The Secret Ciphers of the Men in Black by Allan H. Greenfield. Let me pull that up for you. He gives you the code on the secret chiefs, which ain't nothing but extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial, for what he calls it. Hold on, secret rituals of the Men in Black. And you can access them by knowing certain names and vibrations, but they're called the secret chiefs. And he says that there's a code of them in all of us. All right, they're trying to hide the book here. It's right here. So get the secret ciphers of the Euphonauts. That's one book. And then get the secret rituals of the Men in Black. Yeah, they're hiding that book. But Allan H. Greenfield, a highly ranked Mason, wrote it. He does a lot of, he still does interviews. He does a lot of interviews. He's one of the top people that started the whole Euphanaut research back in the day. I think this is it right here. It's one of the top books I love to read for information. Oh, Manly P, you listened to a lecture Manly P. Hall the other day? All right, so Manly P. Hall writes, the highest of all occult orders, which exists only in the inner world. He says that the highest occult orders is in the inner world, may be called the order of Melchizedek. Remember, Jesus comes from the genetic lineage of Melchizedek. Although among certain nations it has other names, this order is composed entirely of the graduates of the other mystery schools who have actually reached the point where they can give birth. This is very critical notes right here. He says they've reached, they've reached the point where they can give birth to their present selves out of their own natures. I don't even know what that means. He says, just like the mysterious phoenix bird, which breaking open at death permits a new bird to fly forth. This is an alchemical mystery right here. He gave you everything right there. So here he said, here we have the order of Melchizedek, that word related to the Greek melos, meaning black, the order of the black. That's all it is, the order of the black, Melchizedek. The Melchizedekians are the original order of the phoenix, who can birth their own conscious fields from their shadows. The shadow is the root place and cause for a spiritual purpose. Even the Freemasons spoke esoterically of a group of men who had two heads. Remember, I showed you that right here, the two head. Now, the original Freemason order spoke about a group of men that had two heads. The original symbol of the phoenix, the crest, is a two-headed black bird, which comes from the Moorish coat of arms of Habsburg, and later becomes these things like the Russian coat of arms, which shows a white man on a white horse stepping on a black man. If I zoom in enough, can't really see it. But these things were from initiatory schools. I could get into what that means as well. Hold on one second. Where is my pictures of the double-headed bird? Here it goes. Somewhere. So this is a very secret symbol. A group of men who had two heads. Hoodoo practitioners reimposed the esoterica of the Freemasons. Knowledge springing forth from a group of these practitioners that claim to have one head in the spiritual and another in the physical. Meaning, if you killed one, just like Hydra, they were already growing another head as a fetus in their mother someplace in the world via reincarnation. Meaning you can't kill them. Or they could assume a ghostly form to haunt their killers and the killer's family members forever through a series of curses that the Egyptians knew of in their mystery schools of death, deemed the evil eye that the Illuminati venerated as their chief symbol. The Melchizedekians were of Moorish descent and generated a crest to symbolize the dark phoenix and the two-head man in one symbol. The Habsburg coat of arms and other Russian crests adopted the symbol of the phoenix. Then later Freemasonic groups instituted the semiotics of this iconography in their 33rd degree Order of Child. This is one, they got Jesus on this one. Look at this one. And got all of the Knights of Templar and other secret society orders under the wings of both phoenixes. Got crowns on their heads. This is literature coming from Albert Pike, speaking on the Phoenix. You know of Order of Child, the 33. So, Order of Child, Order out of Chaos is the most popular known Masonic phrase ever, which insinuates secret societies are orchestrating chaos purposely through agents and initiates on the world stage to establish order through which the governments they've infiltrated, which is all of them. They've infiltrated all the governments. But as I said earlier, one of the original glyphs of the X is the phoenix, or an ancient glyph shows the phoenix. This is supposed to represent a phoenix in the merging of both halves. This represents one half of the universe. This is another half of the universe. Dark and light, darkness and light. And this is the androgynous being that springs forth from it. So in palmistry, studying your palms, they find the X in something on the palm called the mystic cross. Where they say a spiritual person has these multitude of X's on their palm that I've shown a couple times through their heart line. So here's the X again. This is a double X right here. But there's another thing connected to palmistry called the Phoenix Eye. Yeah, you never heard of this one. It's also called the Confucius eye, but it says that the phoenix eye has this circle right here, right below your thumb or the knuckle of your thumb. And if you have such sign, it means that you are clever. It means that you are clever and can enjoy early success and get profits pouring in from all sides. So how many of you have the phoenix eye? Looks like a lot of people don't have the phoenix eye. So this is how they identify people genetically, man. That's what I'm trying to say. They literally have this thing down to a science. So all this talk about the Phoenix event could be a ontological entity magically starting at the quantum level. Now this segues into my information on the X dimension metaphysically. The X dimension metaphysically is fusing into the phase conjugated states of a new dimension forging itself. Remember my video, The New Dimension. All right. If you're on Patreon, you've heard me say this several times already, that what's going on over there in Israel, in Palestine, in Gaza, is a soul ritual. It's all interrelated. Hold on one second. Where's my image? I don't see it on here. Let me go try to pluck it from over here. All right, so it's fine. I'll just pull it up right here. So we've been seeing the X a lot. Now, if you look at the Hamas group crest, which are supposed to be the terrorists over there, they have the X on their crest. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, he came out the 19th day of the war and said the Jews were the people of light and the Palestinians were the people of darkness. This is quote October 25th, 2023. That represents the X as well, because the eclipse is also representative of the X that you see going across the United States, the Eye of Ra, the Eye of Horus. We just had the Eye of Ra, the Corpus Christi eclipse in October. Then we'll have the Path of Totality, the Eye of Horus, April 8th, the total solar eclipse that you'll see in 2024. Then we've been seeing the iconography with Wakanda, the Osirian crossing of the arms at burial. Also, Luffy in One Piece has the X on his chest. Then Elon Musk changed the symbol to X. All of these things are metaphysical. Have you ever heard of this new thing? There's something else. Let me give you some information. They got this new thing they're about to bring out called, hold on, let me find it real quick. They got this new thing called Disease X. Have you heard about this thing? I'm about to put the link in the chat for anyone that want to come on and ask questions before we close out. We're getting at the end right now. So they got this Disease X. Let me tell you about this thing. All right, they won't let me pin it, so just give me a moment to pin it. But anyways, Disease X, I had not come across this until recently, but why do I mention it? No one is talking about it, but it says that this new disease could be 20 times deadlier than the C word, says an expert. You see what I'm saying? Why isn't that big news? Now, they ain't talking about no Planet X, because Planet X, if there is a Planet X, all of that crap is a Planet X inside of you coming. There's some type of alchemy about to happen in you, but don't be looking up in the sky for nothing, because all of that is Project Bluebeam. So, which means if it could kill 20 times the people, that means they would have to develop a new jab for people to take. So why isn't this getting that much attention? It could be a smoke screen, but I couldn't help but notice the interconnectivity of the semiotics with diseases in this Phoenix phenomenon. Because why is it that this 138-year event comes in a lifetime where humanity is facing the creation of the most diabolical man-made diseases of all time? That's just a question that I have. So the Phoenix and Osiris soul. Uh-oh. iCloud is acting up. iCloud said, y'all got to get off. Y'all been on here too long. Y'all seen that note? It was like, all right, now you've been on here sharing too much information. Let me see if somebody came in the queue. Okay, nobody came in here yet. All right. We can keep going. So the Phoenix is a dead eagle, the end of organic life. In another symbolism, the Phoenix and Osiris soul both equals 36 in gematria. This is the 36th anniversary of Heart. In Chaldean, Phoenix equals 29, AI equals 29. Could the artificial graphene nanoparticles be the dark Phoenix? That is to create the neon race bird people, because the raven is the dark Phoenix. And how do I know? Well, it's the semiotics, the last X-Men movie, going back to the X symbolism. The very last X-Men movie is called what? The Dark Phoenix. What's going on, Julian? I can hear you, brother.
Hey, Ani, how's it going, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Did you have a question? Anything to share?
Yes, just like not so much a question, but just a comment when you were talking about Phoenix, and I know you referenced the Ravens and the Ravens, potential to make the strong narrative there to make the Super Bowl, if not win the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you've ever looked at the Phoenix Suns. They on their chances of making the NBA Finals. What I found interesting is that Kevin Durant just turned 35, and Suns equals 35, and he also wears the number 35. So I was just wanted to throw that in there about, because everybody last year was on the Phoenix Suns making a strong run, and you know how like these leagues like to use these blockbuster trades or teams to kind of as bait bait, so to speak. Because last year it was the Suns, and this year it looks like it's either Boston or Milwaukee with that Damian Lillard trade. So I think that last year they used Phoenix as a distraction. This year they're probably using looks like the Bucks as a distraction. So I think to me that opens up the possibility of the Suns may have a possibility with the Phoenix narrative going on.
Could be because I think 2020 it was 2021 it was the Phoenix Suns versus the Bucks in the championship.
Oh yes, I forgot about that, and that was only about 2 years ago. Okay.
Yep. So they could bring them back. They could bring it back. They have the team. They don't have the bench though. I would say that they bench look kind of ass. If you understand basketball, they bench is horrible. But
right.
They got the star power though.
Just a quick question about you mentioned you in passing Trump's sister just died. Do you think that potentially could be a sacrifice for him winning the next election?
It don't matter. It's a sacrifice.
Okay.
It doesn't have to do with the election. It's a sacrifice that has to be accounted for. So he already knows his role. He already knows if he's going to win the election. He knows. Just because we don't know, he already knows. He knows the strip. He's a 33rd degree Mason. He's a part. Matter of fact, Trump is a part of the Order of the Phoenix. You can look that up and research it. So he knows what's going to happen. That's for us to speculate. But it could be, if you look at the numbers and the date of the election date, it could be. But he knew he was going to sacrifice his sister. He already knew that.
For sure. I just was just asking because obviously, next year, being an election year and with all this skull and bones year going on this year, with all the psyops we've seen this year, I think it's only going to get more and more amplified as we head into the election year.
Exactly. Every election year, it gets out of control. That's when everything happened with the C word. So we're due for another Black Swan event. Something's about to happen. You best
I was
believe.
thinking so too. Oh yeah, I mean either a crazy mass shooting or some stock market crash or something ridiculous.
Or it could be that dark winter they've been talking about. This winter that I spoke about early in the video. They coming out with this Ghostbusters movie called Frozen Empire. And then we got this polar vortex happening in the North Pole. What if we have a crazy winter and they cut the internet off during it?
Right. But do you think they really need a crazy winter to cut it off? I think if they want to cut it off, they'll just cut it off.
Well, it'll be even more fucked up if you had a cold winter with no internet.
Right.
So yeah, they can do either one without one another, but they might try to make it as bad as possible, So try to make it as bad as possible, but yeah.
All right, man. That's everything, man. Thanks so much, man. Keep up the great work.
No, I appreciate it, Julian. That's one of our Patreon members that contributes. Very much appreciates his commentary, everything that he does to keep us updated, especially with the sports events. Julian does a great job with that. But getting to this Dark Phoenix film in X-Men, the enemy in the film is a extraterrestrial race of beings called the Dabari. And the Phoenix in X-Men is a cosmic entity of destruction. It destroyed the Dabari's home planet and took possession of Jean Grey's body. But you got to understand what they say when they say Jean Grey. You reverse the way the words are being used, and you get Grey Jean. The Grey Jean. I'll have to explain that on Patreon. I can't get deep into it right now. But the Dabari, the extraterrestrials, pledged war against the Phoenix, and they tracked the cosmic energy of the Phoenix on Earth. And the Phoenix in Jean Grey, the first person it kills is another mutant. The first mutant it kills, let me see if I got a picture of it in here. I didn't see it when I pulled it up. Yeah, it kills Mystique, this shape-shifting being. Now, you may have wondered, why is that significant? Well, Mystique's real name is Raven Darkholmes. Raven. She's best friend. Mystique in the comic book is best friends with Professor X. Matter of fact, she grows up with Professor X like a sister, then she turns on him. But the first person the Phoenix kills is Raven. You see? You think that's a coincidence? And also, you got the Teen Titan series. You got the other Raven. There's a Raven in the Teen Titans series, because the Teen Titans, or they got this new show called the Titans. That's another thing you have to watch. Played by an actress named Tegan Croft. Tegan Croft plays Raven. She has this third eye. So what is Raven has this ability to create interdimensional pockets with darkness using this magic, because her story is she was born from this interdimensional entity called Trigon in a human woman named Orella. Trigon was born from leftover residue. Let me show you Trigon real quick, because in the comics, Trigon is Satan. He's Lucifer. He's all of that. And you got to watch this series when Trigon becomes a part of Superman. That was a badass series. So that looks like too much for the... Hold on. This is important, though, to this whole Raven thing. Okay, so Trigon is the king of this interdimensional realm, but he's locked in the realm. So what happened? He's born from this leftover residue of dark energy left from these pacifists of a cult group from hundreds of years ago that transferred themselves through ritual into an interdimensional pocket called Azeroth. Now, there's a Necronomicon chief entity in the H.P. Lovecraft text called Azathoth. So that's a play on that word. But in that world, these humans exercise the dark passions of their souls from their bodies and cast it beyond the great door of Azeroth into the nether realms, in which those parts of their souls coalesced together and became Trigon. The first thing he did was conquer his home, then many systems of planets by the age of 6. Then he conquered the entire dimension by the age 30. Raven's mother in the series, Orella, was a part of a satanic cult who did a ritual trying to summon Satan, but ended up beckoning the interdimensional Lord Trigon into Earth, who then disguised himself as a beautiful angel and procreated with Orella, Raven's mother. Then their child would be allowed to grow on Earth, and Trigon could not travel into new dimensions, but he could still monitor activity on other worlds. But he was growing inside of Raven to overtake the world through her. So she has to learn how to control the shadow of her father within her. So this is all type of Osirian type thing. But you ask, is it fiction? This ain't no fiction. This is some real shit going on inside of your ass. Because look, the Raven that projects from her body is the Dark Phoenix as well. It's called the soul. What is it called? What is Raven's ability? It's called the soul something. Oh, soul something. Hold on. The soul self. It's the soul self. This ain't no fiction shit. This something they put it in fiction so you don't look at it. So that's what that is. She can project her soul self as a black form of energy from her body for limited periods of time. And the form takes the shape of Raven herself, but it can also function as a pocket of interdimensional space. In times of crisis, she can project her soul self and have it envelop a group of people, then teleport them to an alternative locale. So it's all types. It just means that it got a lot of abilities. Don't look at that and think you can do that. It has abilities. It has abilities. All right, family. Do we have any more questions? I didn't see nobody come in the queue. We left a lot of information on the table, but I think this was a good video to break you into what Patreon is going to be about this week. I'm going to have a couple videos this week while I'm transferring myself into my new living space. I hope you got a lot of information from the video. Make sure you donate, please. The links, the hyperlinks will be included in the video. Please donate, keep the channel going. And please join Patreon if you enjoy information like this. So with that, I will say Arimpoya, Oshulu. It was great being with y'all today. We'll be back later this week on Patreon. And make sure to like the video and share it. Ashe to the ancestors. Peace.